I was 6 months pregnant when I found out my husband was sleeping with my best friend. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even suspicious. I was just reaching to turn off his alarm clock one morning. And there it was, her name. A message. A joke only two lovers would understand. And suddenly, the world stopped. It wasn't just about him. It was about her, me best friend of 15 years. The two people I trusted most in this life were building a life behind my back. While I was growing our child, while I was taking care of my dying father, I wasn't ready to fight. I wasn't even ready to cry. But I knew something had changed forever. If you've ever trusted the wrong people, if you've ever felt betrayed in silence, like, subscribe. This is just the beginning. I didn't grow up dreaming of fairy tales, but somehow I believed I had one. We met in college. He was kind, funny, the kind of man who would stop to help a stranger change a tire in the rain. I was drawn to his steadiness, his warmth. After 2 years, we got married. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. We bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. We had 2 kids, our little boy who never stops talking, and our daughter who clings to me like I'm her whole world. And then I got pregnant with our third. At the same time, my father got 6-stage 4 cancer. So I split my time between hospital chairs and school pickups, between grief and lullabies. My best friend, let's call her Maya, was always around. We'd been friends since high school. She knew everything, my fears, my joys, my childhood trauma. She called him brother. He called her family. I believed them. She stayed over sometimes to help with the kids. She brought soup when I was sick. She texted me every morning to ask if I needed anything. She knew the brand of prenatal vitamins I was taking. She held my hand during my second ultrasound. She was the one who braided my daughter's hair when I was too tired to stand. And when I cried about my father's test results, she cried with me. Not once did I suspect she could ever hurt me. She was more than a friend, she was my sister in every way, but blood. And maybe that's why the betrayal cut so deep. Because love isn't always romantic. Sometimes it's the love you have for the person who's seen you at your worst and chose to stay. Or at least pretended to. And while I was fighting to keep my father alive, while I was growing another life inside me, they were sneaking behind my back. But I didn't know that yet. Not then. All I knew was I was tired. And I was grateful. Grateful to have a husband who still kissed me goodbye. Grateful for a best friend who stayed through the hardest days. I had no idea they were part of the storm that would soon destroy everything. It was a Wednesday morning, the kind where the sky is gray and the air feels too quiet. I was getting ready to take my daughter to preschool. My husband had left his phone on the nightstand, something he never did. His alarm buzzed once, then again. I reached over, half asleep, and picked it up to turn it off. And there it was. A text. From Maya. I'm guessing she hasn't come yelling at me yet, so I assume you haven't told her about us? My fingers froze. My stomach twisted so violently, I thought I would vomit. I blinked a dance, twice wondering if I'd imagined it. But no. The message was real, and it was sitting right there, on my husband's lock screen, like a punch to the face. I opened the phone. His passcode was still the same. I had never needed to use it before. The message thread opened with a sickening kind of familiarity. There were hearts, winks, inside jokes, references to places I'd never been. They'd been texting like this for months. Over 400 messages. I sat there, scrolling, my heart beating so loudly I couldn't hear my own thoughts. 4 months. That's how long it had been going on. 4 months ago, my father's condition had worsened. That's when Maya started helping out more. That's when my husband offered to give me space for self-care. That's when the two people closest to me decided I wouldn't notice the knife they were sharpening behind my back. They didn't even try to hide it in the texts. They joked about the secret room. They talked about what she'd wear when she snuck over. She sent him selfies in my kitchen. In my robe? One photo was taken from my bed. I remember staring at that image like it couldn't possibly be real. The same bed where I nursed our babies. The same bed where I cried about my dying father. And now a photo of her smiling, wrapped in my towel with my husband's "see you soon" underneath. Something inside me broke. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, phone in hand, feeling like the world had tilted sideways. And then came the anger. White hot. Quiet. It settled under my skin like poison. I looked at my daughter, tugging at my sleeve, asking if we could get pancakes after school. I kissed her forehead, smiled, and told her yes. Because in that moment, I realized something chilling. They didn't just betray me. They endangered the one thing I had left me: sanity. And I wasn't going to give that up. Not for them. So I started taking screenshots. I sent everything to a hidden email. I downloaded backups from his iCloud. I traced the message history, the locations, even the timestamps of when he lied to my face. For the next week, I acted like nothing was wrong. I hugged him. I let Maya drop off food. I even let them stand beside each other watching, memorizing, studying. Because now, I was no longer the blind, grateful wife. I was the woman who had just seen hell through a text screen. And I wasn't going to let them win. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed beside him, this man I once trusted with everything, listening to the rhythm of his breath, the occasional twitch in his hand as he drifted off. And I thought, how does someone sleep so soundly while living a double life? I stared at the ceiling for hours, counting seconds, then minutes. Every inhale of his felt like an insult. Every exhale, a reminder that I was lying next to a stranger. I wanted to scream. I wanted to slap him awake and yell, "How could you?" But I didn't. Instead, I stared into the dark, wondering how long I had been blind. My mind started replaying every memory. His late nights at work. The quick glances between him and Maya that I always brushed off. The way they once laughed at an inside joke I didn't understand. How many times had I sat with both of them, thinking, I'm lucky to have a friend like her and a man like him. How many nights had I asked her to stay and help because I was too exhausted without knowing I was handing them the opportunity on a silver platter. I remembered one night in particular. It was a Friday. My father had just come home from a brutal round of chemo. I was emotionally wrecked. Maya came over with takeout, hugged me like a sister, then told me to take a nap while she handled everything. I woke up 2 hours later and thanked her for being such a blessing. Now I wonder, where was my husband during those 2 hours? Where was Maya? Every moment felt like it had been rewritten in blood. I thought of the way Maya had cried with me over the phone when I got the call that my father's cancer had metastasized. She said she loved me like a sister. She said she'd do anything for me. And all the while, she was sleeping with the father of my children. I wanted to throw my phone through the wall, but I didn't, because I needed it. I needed the proof. I needed to remember this pain, every sharp edge of it. For days, I moved like a ghost through my own life. I fed the kids. I folded laundry. I answered texts with emojis and exclamation points. But inside, I was drowning. I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Because once I did, everything would change. And I wasn't ready for the world to know how broken my marriage really was. I started writing things down in a journal. Not just what they said, but how it made me feel. I feel like I've been robbed without a single broken window. I feel like my womb is carrying a child fathered by a man who doesn't deserve to be called a father. I feel like you've been the supporting actress in my own life. I wrote until my fingers hurt. I wrote because it was the only way to keep from screaming. And still, every day, he kissed me on the forehead. He asked if I wanted ice cream. He rubbed my back when I winced from the pregnancy pains. It was sickening. How could someone fake affection so well? Was it guilt? Or had he always been this good at pretending? And Maya, she still texted, "Thinking of you. Let me know if you need anything. You're the strongest woman I know." The hypocrisy made my blood boil. But I smiled through it, because I wasn't done collecting, and I wasn't done preparing. One night, after the kids were asleep, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. There was no sparkle in my eyes, just exhaustion, and a quiet, smoldering rage. But underneath it, something else. Resolve. I had been betrayed. Yes, but I was not going to be broken. I didn't confront him. Not that night. Not the next day. Not even the day after that. Instead, I stayed quiet, so quiet that it scared even me. I went about life like nothing had changed. I smiled at the neighbors. I packed lunches for the kids. I even planned a baby shower for myself, with Maya on the invite list. It sounds insane, doesn't it? But when your whole world explodes, and no one else hears the sound, you learn to sweep up the glass in silence. I needed time. Time to think. Time to plan. Time to become someone other than the broken woman holding 1,000 screenshots in her phone. So I watched them closely. He still left the house at 7:45 every morning. Still kissed me goodbye. Still said love you. Still texted Maya while I was making breakfast for our children. I checked his messages every night. He never changed his passcode. Maybe he thought I'd never suspect anything. Or maybe he didn't care enough to hide anymore. Maya kept up her act too. Just checking in on you today. Let me know if you need help with anything. Can't wait to meet the baby. Each text made me want to throw up, but I responded like always. Thanks, girl. You're the best. Love you. Because now I had a new purpose. Documentation. Every lie, every interaction, every timestamp, I recorded it all. I created a folder in a private cloud, labeled it something boring like Tax Docs 2023. Inside were screenshots of texts, call logs, even pictures I took of them through the kitchen window when she thought I wasn't home. I contacted a lawyer. I used a fake name and a burner email. We didn't talk about divorce yet. We talked about evidence, custody, financial safety. The lawyer asked if I had proof. I said more than enough. Meanwhile, I played the role of loving wife so well, I should have gotten an award. I kissed him back. I laughed at his lame jokes. I even made his favorite meal one night, just to keep things looking normal. But inside, I was making lists. What would I take when I left? What would I say to the kids? How would I tell them the man they called Daddy chose betrayal over family? It felt like I was preparing for war. And I was. But the battlefield was invisible. The enemy wore a familiar face. And my weapon was silence. I began journaling again, this time with more focus. I am not crazy. I am not weak. I am calculating. There's something terrifying about being calm in the face of heartbreak. It's the calm that comes before transformation. The stillness before a storm of your own making. I stopped crying. The grief had burned itself out, leaving something colder in its place. Not hatred. Not yet. But a resolve so strong it felt like steel in my bones. And still, every day, they kept playing their parts. Head kiss me goodbye. Shed text goodnight. And ID nod and smile and reply. Sweet dreams. But my dreams weren't sweet anymore. They were strategic, sharp, final. I wasn't staying because I still loved him. I was staying because I knew what was coming. And when I finally left, I wouldn't leave like a victim. I'd leave like a ghost that took everything with her. People think betrayal makes you angry, and it does. But before the anger, before the plans, before the silence, there's something worse. Doubt. Not in them, but in yourself. I started questioning everything. Maybe I hadn't been enough. Maybe I hadn't been exciting or sexy or spontaneous. Maybe he got bored because I was always tired, always grieving, always busy being a mother and a daughter and a wife. Had I stopped kissing him the way I used to? Did I become too serious, too focused on the kids? Was I still the woman he married? It's disgusting how betrayal doesn't just make you hate them. It makes you hate yourself. I'd stare in the mirror at the swollen ankles, the dark circles, the growing belly, and wonder if this was the version of me he couldn't stand to come home to. And then I'd snap back. I'd remember the texts, the photos, the nights he said he was working late while she sent him selfies from inside my house. This wasn't about me not being enough. It was about them never deserving what I gave. Still, the voice in my head whispered, "But Hayes, the father of your children. But Maya was like your sister. But maybe they didn't mean for it to happen." I hated that voice, because that voice kept me from screaming, from leaving, from burning it all down. That voice wanted to keep the illusion alive. But illusions don't hold up when your phone is filled with evidence. They crack. And once they crack, they don't stop until everything shatters. There were moments when I'd watch him laugh with our kids so genuine, so present, and think, how can a man love his children and still betray their mother like this? And Maya, she held my baby daughter once and whispered, "She's so beautiful, just like you." She helped plan my son's 5th birthday party. How does someone do all that and still sleep with my husband? The answer: because they never thought they'd get caught. Because they saw my kindness as weakness. Because they counted on my silence. I started therapy. I didn't tell the therapist everything, just that I was dealing with stress, betrayal, trust issues. She looked me in the eye one session and asked, "What do you want?" And I said, "To never feel like this again." That became my goal. Not revenge, not justice, but liberation. To be free from the ache in my chest every morning. To be free from checking his phone like it was a loaded gun. To be free from pretending everything was fine when I was breaking from the inside out. I started writing letters I never sent. To him, to her, to myself. Letters filled with rage, sorrow, disappointment, but also with clarity. You didn't break me. You broke the version of me that needed you. And am grateful for that. I held on to those words. They reminded me that pain, when harnessed, can become power. That clarity is often born in fire. And I was burning. But I was burning into someone new. Not the woman who cried in the shower every night. Not the woman who wondered if she was the problem. But the woman who had finally stopped doubting her own worth. When people imagine leaving a relationship, they think of slammed doors and packed bags. They imagine shouting matches, ultimatums, and dramatic exits. But when you're a mother pregnant and your world has been carefully built around lies, you don't just walk away. You plan your escape. I started with the finances. I opened a new bank account in my name only. I redirected my direct deposit from work, bit by bit. I stopped contributing to the joint account, offering vague explanations about maternity leave preparation. He didn't notice. He was too busy pretending everything was fine. Or maybe he noticed and didn't care, believing, as always, that I'd never leave. Next, I began collecting documents, birth certificates, social security cards, health insurance information. Every file that mattered, I scanned and uploaded to a secure cloud drive. I packed emergency bags for the kids, labeled them as weekend overnight kits in case I ever went into early labor and needed someone to watch them. No one questioned it. I scheduled meetings with my lawyer quietly, secretly, in between grocery runs and prenatal checkups. We outlined custody options, property divisions, what my rights were as a stay-at-home mother carrying our third child. It was exhausting, but it was also empowering. Each step reminded me, am not stuck, am preparing. I rehearsed conversations in my head. What I'd say to him? What I'd say to the kids? What I'd say to Maya Thou? Part of me hoped I'd never have to see her again. And still, I smiled through it all. I planned the baby shower. I updated our family calendar. I let him think everything was normal. Because now, I knew something he didn't. The story was about to end. One evening, while folding laundry, he walked in and kissed the top of my head. I smiled, said thank you, and handed him a towel. It was the same towel she'd worn in that photo. The irony didn't hurt anymore. It felt like closure. Maya texted me that night. So excited to meet the baby. Hope we're still doing brunch next week. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, yes. Can't wait. I had already spoken to my therapist about how to break the news to the kids. We'd decided, one honest conversation, no details about infidelity, just truths rooted in love. Mommy and Daddy won't live together anymore. We still love you. It's okay to feel sad or confused or angry. I practiced saying it in the mirror. I hated every word, but I hated the lie we were living more. I set a date, the week after the baby shower. One last event, one last act. I invited everyone from Lee, friends, even Maya. She smiled the whole time, took pictures with me, rubbed my belly like she hadn't been sleeping with my husband. People told us how lucky I was to have her. I nodded. I smiled. I cut the cake with steady hands. And the next morning, I left. I took the kids. I called the lawyer. I served the papers. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just left. No goodbye note. No final confrontation. Just silence. And in that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. It's been months since I left. And I won't leave. There were days I wondered if I made the right decision. I missed the familiarity, the routine, the illusion. Not him, not her, but the version of my life I thought I was living. I grieved that version, because grief isn't always about death. Sometimes it's about letting go of the future you built in your head. The birthdays you thought you'd celebrate together. The laughter you assumed was genuine. The trust you gave without thinking twice. But I don't regret leaving. Not for a second. I look at my kids now, and I see strength. They smile without knowing the full story, and I let them stay innocent for a little while longer. One day, they'll know. Not all the details, but enough to understand that their mother didn't stay silent. I still think about Maya sometimes, not with rage, not even with sadness, but with disbelief that someone who knew every detail of my pain could contribute to it so deeply, that someone who heard me cry about my dying father could betray me in the same breath. It's a kind of cruelty I wouldn't wish on anyone, but it taught me something you'll carry forever. You can't control who breaks you, but you can control who gets to rebuild you. And I chose to rebuild myself, brick by brick, word by word, one boundary, One hard conversation, one quiet act of courage at a time. People say betrayal changes you. They're right. It strips away the softness. But it also shows you what you're made of underneath. I used to think strength looked like holding everything together. Now I know real strength is walking away when everything inside you wants to stay and fix what cannot be fixed. So to anyone listening who's ever been betrayed, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not overreacting. You're waking up. And when you do, don't apologize for the storm you become. If this story resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Your story might be the strength someone else needs. Like this video if it moved you. Subscribe to Lies Unveiled for more raw, real, and honest stories just like this one. Because healing starts with truth. And truth starts here.